Pop punk is one of my favorite genres of all time. It's just an exciting type of music, and I absolutely love it. When you think of bands like Simple Plan, a lot of people gave them a lot of hate, especially in their early days. But as many people that hated them, there was twice or three times as many people that loved them, and they did it their way, the same way they're doing it today, and you gotta respect it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, music lovers, especially my rock music lovers. Simple Plan, this band right here, whether you want to admit it or not, is a great band. You can't help but smile when you listen to the guys, whether you want to hate on their sound or not. They've definitely delivered some classics over the years, but today we're just going to talk about their very first album. I'm talking about their 2002 debut album, No Pads, No Helmets, Just Balls. Because this album is full of classics, and not only that, it absolutely shows these guys, their roots, their inspiration, and the people that believed in them and helped them grow and really helped them get to where they eventually got down the road. So let's dive right into it now. Before we move on, please do me a huge favor. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Those are the two things you can do for me right now, absolutely free, that will help the channel grow. And that's all I need from you. And continue watching the videos and share them with your friends and family. This is what I love to do, and I want to continue doing it. That's all you gotta do to help me. So, back to the video. The guys from Simple Plan, just a bunch of dudes from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Now, the band originated in 1999. When the guys formed, they went by the name Touchdown 999. Didn't take long for them to adapt the name Simple Plan, which derived from a 1998 film by the same name. But when these guys got together in 99, it did not take them long to hit the ground running and finally get into the studio before they would end up releasing in 2002 their debut album, No Pads, No Helmets, Just Balls. That would end up being released under Lava and Atlantic Records. So this debut album by Simple Plan dropped March 17th of 2002. But a month before that, in February 4th to be exact, of 2002, that's when their first single dropped. Now this was the first single to promote the band and this album, and that was the song I'm Just a Kid. Now, it wasn't their top selling song off that album, even up to date recently. But that has absolutely changed now, because when you get on TikTok or even some of YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, you are no doubt gonna flip through and see something like this.
When you're spending every day on your own, and here it goes, I'm just a kid.
I gotta be honest, when I see something like that, it gives me a warm feeling in my heart, in my stomach, and it takes me back. Anybody from my time period, and when I say my time period, I'm talking about maybe born late 80s, grew up in the 90s, and were a teenager in the early 2000s, when I think that was the prime of pop punk. Now, definitely late 90s, bands like New Found Glory were definitely staples in starting that traditional sound of what we might consider pop punk when we think about it. But there's a lot of bands that paved the way before New Found Glory, but those are one that I'll consider the godfathers of pop punk. No doubt, hands down. But the song I'm Just a Kid, it was a catchy song, very upbeat, awesome song when it came out. People loved it. It was a good single to promote the album. But nowadays, when you see these shorts that people do or these TikToks with that song in a theme like what people are doing, showing themselves when they're real time, as older children or adults, and then it automatically snaps back to an old photo, it makes you feel something for the people, even though you don't know them, because it just takes us all back. It's like memory lane, We would all like to go back to certain times, but that's life. You got to love where you're at, and you got to love and hope that the future is even better. But there's nothing wrong with reminiscing and going back to special time and place with friends or family. It's just a great feeling. And that song has been off the charts since that started trending. And the guys, that song has probably been their top spin song of all time up to date now because of that. And that also brings up the question, when I ask, how can I, bring up things that were meaningful to me in my teenage years and try to bring them into the interest of my kids who are 3, 5, and 7. Well, stuff like that, because they see stuff like that all the time, and that's all they know the song for is those TikToks. But I try to explain to them, hey, this was when Daddy was young. These were songs I loved, my friends loved, and a lot of people around the world loved, and we used to get down to this and have a really good time. The second single that was released off No Pads, No Helmets, Just Balls was the song I'd Do Anything. Now, this was the song that I originally deemed my favorite at the time, because when it came out, They were new to me. They were fresh on the scene, but I definitely had a lot more respect for them when this song came out because it was really catchy, and the guys definitely resembled the image that we were all portraying. You know, that's your teenage years, man. You identify with something, you pick up the image, and those who are the same as you are the ones you identify with. As we've gotten older, you got to realize people are people. There's a lot of good people out there, and if you can surround yourself with good people, that's great. But when you're a teenager, you don't think like that yet. But if you find somebody that looks like you and likes the same things you like, there's a connection there, and that's usually who you surround yourself with. That's what I did, and I'm sure that's what many of you out there did. But the song I'd Do Anything was amazing. Not only that, the video was awesome. It showed the guys having a great time. You had Mark Hoppus from Blink-182 in the video, who also provided vocals on the song, as well as Joe Madden from Good Charlotte. He provided vocals on the song as well. So you're a new band, new album, you've hit the ground running, you're definitely making your mark, people are loving it. You get two of the hottest guys in the pop punk scene, especially Mark Hoppus, because Blink-182, aside from New Found Glory, might be one of the classic greatest pop punk bands of all time. Some don't consider them that. And again, that's what's the beauty of music. You're going to throw people in these different genres. I've seen bands in like 7 or 8 different genres, and I guess you just pick one. But does it really matter? You know, it's really about the people that you inspire and the people that come to see your shows, who identifies with your music, and then you can throw them in whatever genre you want. But, you know, those are two guys to have involved in your album that will definitely make people even have more interest if they didn't before. So the song I'd Do Anything was amazing, and one of my favorite songs at that time. I had it on my burnt CD. Among other songs, Simple Plan's I'd Do Anything was one of them that was on there as well. Then after I'd Do Anything, the third single released off the album was the song Addicted. Another upbeat, catchy song, amazing. It was like the guys just threw out 3 bombs and they all hit. I mean, bullseye, bullseye, bullseye. Obviously, the latter two, I'd Do Anything and Addicted, hit harder at the time. If you look at today, you're going to say I'm Just a Kid is their most popular song, with good reason, and I don't think the guys are ashamed of the trend that it's, you know, adapted to. But the song Addicted was amazing, and if you remember 2002, you could say now MTV from what it was originally is dead. It's gone. I mean, there's no doubt MTV was one of the greatest. It provided some great shows, but mostly great music. You know, shows like Beavis and Butthead, I would not say that ruined MTV at all. That made it even better. And those guys promoted a lot of good music and put some eyeballs on bands that people didn't know or didn't really care for at the time, but Beavis and Butthead gave people appreciation for a lot of music. So you can thank MTV for that show. It definitely helped. But later on, there's a lot of shows that kind of killed the channel and killed music altogether. But, you know, 2002, they started to adapt a lot of reality shows that I won't say killed it at the time, but it was starting that trend of where it would eventually go, which was dead in the toilet. But there was a show called Sorority Life that eventually spawned a spin-off called Fraternity Life. The song Addicted by Simple Plan was the theme song for that show. So the guys, they were loved and they were good for, you know, what was popular at the time. They were PG, you know, parents didn't have a problem with it. You could wear the style of the guys from Simple Plan, but you could also look like the guys from New Found Glory or even the guys from NoFX, who, if your parents listen to NoFX, they might say, what the hell is this? But Simple Plan was that gateway to say, hey, okay, those guys are fine. Okay, I'm going to listen to them now. Maybe my parents will be cool with it. And most of the time, they were. Even if you had green spiky hair, cut off Dickie shorts, an Atticus t-shirt, and some kind of crazy necklaces like dog chains around your neck and hanging off your belt loops. But it didn't matter. It was all for fun. It was the teenage years, so it was fine. So these guys were well on their way to having one of the greatest debut albums of all time. Now, I say that loosely because I'm not talking about, you know, reaching the levels of albums like Michael Jackson's Thriller or something like that. But for what they were doing and what they were trying to do, it was definitely on its way to being a great album. Now, the fourth and final single off No Pads, No Helmets, Just Balls was the song Perfect. Now, I can say the song was perfect for teenagers like me at the time because you never really know the true meaning behind a song. Sometimes the lyricist or the writer, you know, the guys in the band will come out and tell you what they meant, and obviously you can only take their word for it, right? But the interpretation of a song sometimes what makes it beautiful for everybody. You hear a song and you put your interpretation on it because you want it to mean something to you. You're going to pertain it to your life. And the song Perfect absolutely did that. At the time, it was, you know, it was a great song, because if you thought your parents didn't love you, or you just broke up with somebody, or your friends didn't want to hang out with you no more, it was like, I'm sorry I can't be perfect. We can't go back, there's nothing we can change about the past. We can only move forward. And you don't want to not feel loved. Everybody wants to feel loved. And when you're a teenager, you're just trying to figure out life. And it's really hard to do at that time. But that's what makes that time of life one of the best, because you got to figure things out, You got to learn to be strong. You got to learn how to live life. And you got to learn to grow up. But that song was amazing. I want to call it their ballad, if you want to call it that. It was a slow-paced song. It was a great music video. And, teenage girls loved it. If you were a guy listening to it, they thought you were cool. Whether you just were listening to it to get them around, or you actually enjoyed it, or both. It was a great song, and it was just one of those that you could sit in your room at night and play it and just think about life, and let yourself be sad for a minute, because we all wanted to do that at some point or another. Is we wanted to feel sad for some reason by ourselves. And sometimes we were going through tough times, and we hear a song like that to just let the emotion out and get over it. And the song Perfect by Simple Plan was just that, a perfect song. I mean, you want to talk about 2002 being an amazing year for Simple Plan, just based on that album, you can say so. But not only that, they toured and supported some of the best bands at that time. They were touring around with Sugar Ray, Green Day, Blink-182, MXPX, the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, even Avril Lavigne. And all those acts were hot at that time. I mean, they were on fire, and people wanted them to be around. I mean, they knew that they were loved, and they asked them to come, and they supported them just as well as they supported the bands they were opening for. 2002 was a great year. Not only that, they were involved in the new Scooby-Doo adaptation TV show called What's New, Scooby-Doo. They did the theme song for it, but that wasn't the only Scooby-Doo they were involved in. They were involved in the live-action Scooby-Doo movie that would come out that year. Awesome movie when it came out. It was highly anticipated, and I loved it. Matthew Lillard as Shaggy. You had Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr. The movie was awesome. I cannot tell you how many times I've watched that movie, especially when it came out. I mean, we watched it over and over and over again. And they had music in the movie and on the soundtrack. Simple Plan was loved, and it was completely obvious by what was going on in pop culture and everybody that wanted them involved. My appreciation really comes for them at the Vans Warped Tour when they came through Houston that year, supporting that album. High on the coattails of that album. They were playing an amazing set. And for me, middle of the set, they opened the first notes to the Bad Religion song American Jesus. And I loved Bad Religion at the time. The older guys we used to hang out with at the skate park, they got us into Bad Religion, And Bad Religion had been out for a long time, well before our time. But we had a big appreciation for them because we knew those guys loved them and we looked up to those guys. And American Jesus was my favorite song by them, mainly because I don't know if you remember the Punk-A-Rama compilation albums that used to come out, all these different punk bands and popular songs at the time. Well, they had a Punk-A-Rama DVD that I bought that summer. American Jesus music video was on there by Bad Religion. So that song was fresh on my playlist every day. And then they played it. I was like, it was a sign from God. These guys are amazing. It was evident what their, people they looked up to was. It was evident what their inspiration was. And they weren't scared to show it, whether you hated them or not. And a lot of people called them posers, industry plants, whatever. I disregard all that. That's not who they were. That's not who they are. And it was evident. I mean, they did amazing things, toured with amazing bands, had a hell of a first couple years after releasing that album, and they got my respect. So if you ask me, are they pop punk legends? Based on that album and where they stand in history of pop punk, I'm going to say yes, and they'll forever be engraved for that album. You know what I mean. But yes, no doubt, that's my answer to that question. Whether you disagree with me or not, drop it in the comment section. I'd love to know what you think about Simple Plan, and mainly that album, their debut album. No pads, no helmets, just balls. Awesome album, great songs. The entire album's awesome. Not just the singles, but those singles made them special and put them out there for the world to see, and they did just that. So again, thank you everybody for watching. Go out there and do something great. A couple guys from Montreal, Quebec, Canada did it, and look where they're at now. You can do it too. Why not you? So thank you everybody for watching. Go out there, take care of your friends and family, and until next time, I'm out.